Hey guys, welcome back to Together We Are Thursdays. I am so overexposed again. And I'm still sick. And it sucks. But anyway, congratulations to our new team members. I'm really excited that we have more people on board. Awesome. Crimson Butterfly Girl. We've been friends for a long time. I love her very much. Arc Drummer is new to the team, and Georgina Broadway? Yeah, Georgina Broadway. I have to think about your first name. Welcome to Together We Are. It's awesome to have you guys on board. I really like that we have such a diverse team now with people representing all different eating disorders, age, levels of recovery, all kind of. It's a more diverse team now, which is awesome. I think that's really good. So yay. Happy New Year, everyone. I hope you guys all had a good New Year. And the topic of the week is talking about our ED story and sharing something that we're passionate about, I think, right? Am I getting that right? I hope. Okay. I'll start with a question just to be unconventional because it's easier to answer and quicker. I'm very passionate about animals. I have a lot of pets, always have. I got my first little parakeet, little budgie, when I was 8 years old and fell in love with him. And that was the beginning of many, many birds and animals to come. Actually, I guess before him, that was my first bird, but my first pet was a kitten that I got when I was 6. That was actually mine. You know, we had kitties all along, but... And I've had many different animals over the years. Now I've got my puggies. Just got a new little puppy home. And we have kitties. And I have a pair of Solomon Island Eclectus parrots, which are gorgeous, beautiful, sweet birds. They're very cute. I have a lot of videos on my other channel if you guys are interested. Yeah, so my ED story. Oh my goodness, I've tried to condense this so many times and it has not gone well. But let's see if I can condense it again. So my journey's weird. Interestingly, looking back, retrospective analysis is interesting on yourself because you can find like little pieces of the puzzle, little clues, little predispositions that have always been there, and then later on they're integrated into, oh wow, this is how my ED developed. Lots of stuff in my history with parents splitting when I was 5. I was molested. A lot of moves in childhood. Being the neighborhood nerd, picked on. I just was not a well-liked kid. You know, I was kind of the weird outcast. We were also like the only divorced family on our block, and also of a different religion than the majority of the neighborhood. So, and this was like a very family-oriented neighborhood. So, yeah, I think that set us apart. And also, my age, I was kind of too old for the young kids and too young for the older kids. And then just being weird and not fitting in and being a dork, like, kind of sealed my fate in that respect. So, yeah, rough times, rough predispositions. I notice early on, like, I have memories that were sort of predisposing thoughts about physical appearance and how, um, noticing who was considered beautiful and well liked and whatever. But none of that really set off anything. I guess it's kind of a stereotype that I hate, because it's like people have this view of eating disorders like you're just vain and you want to be pretty or you want to be popular. It's so not about that, but I'm just preaching to the choir on this channel. So, I guess two things. My mother has always been a binge eater and overeater. My sister has exhibited anorexic tendencies all her life. For me, university was when I really began to notice changes in myself that were predispositions. And I think this had to do with interacting, with a new environment, new challenges culturally and things. But the principal trigger in my decline was getting ill, unrelated. I got mono in my sophomore year of college, and the virus stayed active and did a whole bunch of damage and attacked my heart, my GI tract, and yeah. The first few years of that, things were very vague, and it was difficult to figure out what was going on, and people thought I was like making things up for attention, and that was like even more traumatic because it's the last thing that I wanted. And but for the first time in my life, I found something I was good at. I really thrived in academia, and I loved school, and university. I would have stayed there forever if I could have. It was like the best years of my life for sure. I loved it. Did well and found a passion, but I got too sick and I had to leave eventually. And I think that was the final blow for me as far as setting everything into motion with my eating disorder. Initially, I turned to food for comfort, earlier on, and actually was clinically obese at one time, so I'm familiar with like the chronic overeating, binge eating side of things. But as I got sicker, I developed chronic nausea from malabsorption, some nerve damage in my bowel, and that kind of precipitated a fear of eating, I guess, that initially was responsible for my taking in less nourishment. And as many of you may know, oftentimes it'll be a period like this that can be the final trigger for something like anorexia. Maybe you have a surgery where you can't eat for a few days, or there's something that happens physiologically in a state of lowered caloric intake that kind of flips a switch, I guess. Sorry, my screen went out. Where your brain chemistry changes and you feel, for whatever reason, the effects of lowered caloric intake. You feel stronger, clearer, maybe more in touch with emotion, which is paradoxical because a lot of people are avoiding emotion with ED behaviors. I'm all over the place today. I'm sorry, you guys. Got some pleurisy going on, so it's like hard to take breaths, and I don't know, great fun. But yeah, so it started with just an innocent medical fear of eating, but then I think that really set the ball in motion for like full-blown ED stuff coming out. And I'd had predispositions before, and I'd had kind of a little bit of dancing with pathology here and there through the years, unconsciously. But yeah, it didn't. The worst thing for me was having to leave school and losing everything, and facing the prospect of being terminally ill, and like how to cope with all that, all the loss, and my anorexia at that time became a coping mechanism, a survival instinct. Definitely not a positive one, but one that worked. And this is the paradox with eating disorders. They begin as a purposeful coping mechanism, even though it's maladaptive. Unfortunately, they progress and lose their purpose and end up being our detriment. So I've been everywhere with this journey. I've been very, very sick. I've been, doing better psychologically, but it's definitely a dance. The choreography is not linear. And over the years, I've come to embrace a philosophy of optimal wellness. I don't believe that this is curable. I have done extensive research on eating disorders and recovery, and like with any chronic illness, I think this is something that we need to not try and expunge from our spirit. This is probably a controversial view, or probably is a controversial view. I think militant pro-recovery groups would be very upset with me for saying that, but I am more along the philosophy of I'm going to live with this, not for it, and minimize the damage and maximize wellness. And I've been able to walk in relative balance for some time with this approach, minimizing pathology, maximizing health, trying to find that middle ground. I call that walking the thin red line, right? Like on one side is the emergent NED, and on one side is perfect health, and we're kind of balanced in the middle a lot. That's kind of my goal, is to stay on that line. So in most recent news, I've really been striving for my health and wanting to get pregnant, which I mentioned in my New Year's video. So I'm really fighting harder to get as well as possible for that. And so I'm closest to the recovery side that I've ever been. But I do have a lot of issues with the traditional approach, and it bothers me that it fails so many of us. So yeah, I can go into my personal philosophy if you guys are interested, but it's definitely not a conventional one at all. Bottom line though, we all need love and support wherever we are in the journey, and I'm happy to be a voice for others, and hopefully help them feel less stigmatized, and to know that it is possible to live with this and live optimally well with it. Yeah, so if you're new to your ED, or you're scared and you don't know how you'd ever live without it, and aren't sure if recovery is worth it or what it all entails, you are the deciding factor. Nobody can take it from you. And if you want to get well, there are gradations of getting well. It's not a black and white issue, which we tend to think black and white in EDs, but it's more of a spectrum, and you go at your own pace. So don't be afraid. Like, if you want to explore healing and recovery, don't be afraid to investigate your options. There are always ways you can better your health and minimize the damage of your ED. So that's kind of my mission. And I hope this is condensed enough. I'm gonna shut up now. I love you guys, and we'll see you next Thursday. Be well, precious ones. Bye, guys.